You have a certain limited time to plan your mission, and you'll find so many creative ways, but at the end of the day, you'll execute the mission, even if you're not ready.
Roy Nicolet, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Michael. It's Friday afternoon. I'm feeling great. How are you?
I am feeling just fine. I miss not seeing you on Stanford campus.
Yeah, well, they closed down campus, so I guess that we're not.
Long, long time ago. Well, Roy, I'm excited to learn more about your journey and share your journey. We've gotten to know each other quite well over this past year as you were finishing your business degree at Stanford Graduate School of Business. Quite an experience, I'm sure, which I can't wait to hear more about. But you have such a phenomenal life experience and all these different things that you've done, transitioning from a leader in the IDF to Intel to studying in the Technion to so many different things, all the way leading up to Stanford. That I'd love to just talk about your life and perhaps touch on the different events and draw some nuggets that you now take with you on your entrepreneurial journey. How does that sound?
Cool. Sounds great. Yeah.
Roy, who are you?
Who am I? Roy, I'm a 34 years old Israeli entrepreneur. Born and raised in Evan Yehuda, and I think that being Israeli is a big part of my life.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say that? Being Israeli means you connect yourself with a country, with your Jewish heritage. You live it. You born as an individual, but you experience your country in such big intensities. From serving your country and also being pissed about politics. I think that is unique being Israeli.
Of course, 100%. So, talk to me a little bit about your experience at Stanford Business School. You started 2 years ago. You're coming from Israel. You mentioned that it was almost a life dream to go there, right?
Yeah, so Stanford Business School was a life dream of about 6 years that I planned to go to Stanford GSB. And what's incredible about Stanford is that you interact with amazing people. You're getting inspired on a daily basis. You have the professors. It's really different from the Israeli experience of studying in college. The professors know you. They'll have coffee with you. Hopefully, they'll invest in you in the future. But they're very, very generous with their time and knowledge. So Stanford is incredible. The people that they bring there, everybody breathes entrepreneurship. You get inspiration from Silicon Valley as just, this is the place to be for an entrepreneur, I think. And
Okay, so now I what I would love to do is to talk about different parts of your life and the different experiences that from there, because just before we started this call, you mentioned that looking back and reflecting on these different experiences, good and bad experiences, you've accumulated these nuggets that now, as you're creating your startup and you're now the founder of a startup in stealth mode, now you're using these experiences to move forward. So I'd love to open the floor and let you guide me through these different adventures that you've had.
cool. So I'll mention that I'm working on a startup right now. It's an AI-powered startup, and it's in stealth mode, so I can't talk about it too much. But it's my second startup, and I didn't understand where the resilience and not losing hope came from. How the hell am I waking up in the morning and grinding on getting clients, getting validation from investors and getting rejected on a daily basis, but also continuing moving forward till I get the success from every distress. And it brought me to, I realized that basically being an entrepreneur, the entrepreneurial thing in me was very much influenced by my military service. So I had a very broad military service, starting from pilot school, and then I went to be a tank fighter, and then an intelligence officer. And one of the intelligence officer positions.
Crazy, Roy. That's just crazy. From the pilot academy, one of the most prestigious areas in the IDF, going to be to be in a tank, which is an extraordinary experience, all the way to be an intelligence officer, another position that is sought after by so many people going into the military. Sorry, but continue. I'm impressed by the variety of experiences that you've had.
Thank you. So, my first military officer position was in a commando unit, Sayeret Golani. And in Sayeret Golani, one of the values is you'll get a mission, a certain mission. It will seem unrealistic to perform it, but you'll go and do it. And you have a certain limited time to plan your mission. And you'll find so many creative ways, but at the end of the day, you'll execute the mission, even if you're not ready. And that was very, very inspiring for me. You find out in many cases and every night that you don't have the solution, yet you need to march forward. You need to perform the task. And sometimes just by having the hope that everything will be fine and you'll just go and do it, by that you did like 90% of the job.
Right.
Not to say that these are dangerous missions and entrepreneurship is way not like this, but that mentality really taught me a lot moving forward today. Another thing is that you go to a military mission and you don't really have all the intelligence, you don't really have all the information about the other side to execute the mission. But yet you go and do that. You take the risk. And many times, wherever you work somewhere, or whether you lead a company, you need to cope with uncertainty. You won't have all the answers. You won't have all the information to take a calculated decision. But this is why people trust us. This is why people pay us salaries. So I learned that, I guess, in Sayeret Golani.
When you look at yourself as an entrepreneur now, you mentioned that there are various experiences that you've taken lessons from there, and now you're implementing them in your day-to-day life as an entrepreneur, whether it be rejection or leadership or vision or creativity. So I'd love to get more insight into what other areas that you've gained this inspiration for.
Yeah, so what I really enjoy at the end of the day when I'm working with people, my co-founder, the people that we work with, is not forgetting that there are people. It's really important for me to talk to people, even go to small details. And that was another lesson taught by another position that I had in my military service. So I'll tell you that the journey of being a commander in the IDF was very, very special when you interact with your soldiers. So I've led around 80 soldiers in my military service. And as a commander, you are sometimes their best friends, sometimes their enemy. You are representing the system, a system that kind of like forces people to serve in the military. Not everybody wants to be there. Not everybody is an officer who wants to volunteer. Not everybody gets benefit to their careers to be a leader. And these special relationships that you have, sometimes you encounter when in situations where you are a psychologist to a suicidal soldier, or whether you are in a couple therapy if your soldiers are dating each other. You're a social worker if the background of your soldier is from a very situation. You go to their places and see how they live. Sometimes they are a pillow, because the military missions, when you need to sleep somewhere, you have like a 10-minute nap.
I think that what you're touching on here, which is very, very true, the IDF is a compulsory service, which brings with it a lot of the challenges of what it means to lead within a program like this, where every person enlists, and then naturally, when the whole organization is very young, because the majority of the organization is 18 to 21 year olds, you have very young leaders. So at the age of 19, you get a team of 8 to 10 people and say, okay, welcome. You are now their sibling, their parent, their psychologist, their social worker. And you have to now all of a sudden understand what that means. And I can totally relate to these lessons that you're sharing about how you're learning to lead by example and to be a commander that way. What is the, now that you've gone through Stanford Business School as well, and a school where a lot of the classes are about leadership and about management and how to successfully lead a business, talk to me a little bit about the differences between leading a team in the army rather than leading a team perhaps at a startup or in a business. And you've also gotten a chance to work at a few companies, so you also have that experience as well.
Yeah, so leading people by example is definitely one of these, and also understanding that at the end of the day, these are people,
Mm-hmm.
ambitions. You need to understand what is the motivation behind the people, even in your startup. Everybody has their own need to give an input, need to impact. They have their own passions. And learning what is their motivation is like the best leadership skill that I learned in the military. Another thing is working as a team. So in many ways, the social connections that teams have are really kind of like perpetuate the energy and commitment to the company and
Yeah.
mission. And I think that it's sometimes overlooked because people want to work and they have their work-life balance. Uh, in the military, you kind of like live within work, and the people that you're stuck with, you're working with them, then you go to your room and you stay with them in the same room. Um, so everywhere that I go, I try to bring that team cohesiveness and trying to kind of like lower the guards of people so they can feel comfortable.
How do you do that? How do you lower guards of people so that your teammates can be comfortable?
So I believe that encouraging open discussion. So I know that you were an officer in the Israeli Defense Forces as an intelligence officer, and we have a big story about uh, not saying what you have in mind. You need to always say what you have in mind if you think that it's important. So you always need to encourage a discussion if it's relevant to how we work and what are we working on. And so always encourage people to talk, to be open about these things. We don't want to hold any aggression towards the goal or the team. So this is super important. Second thing is that we need to stay and work until work is done, because eventually sometimes we need to deliver. And some of that military experience brought me to understand that I need to stay with my employees and support them and my team, which is something that you see in the military all the time.
Right, right.
And kind of like supporting them is kind of create a synergy that they feel more motivated, they feel supported, and they're not alone. So
100%. No, yeah, that's I completely resonate with what you're saying. Talk to me a little bit about the GSB experience. So you mentioned a little bit about the entrepreneurship side of it, about the social side of it. I'd love to really hear because I haven't gone through the GSB myself, and so many other friends. We all really want to, but it's a little far. And while we hope to get in one day, you now have the opportunity to share with me, having just finished it. So talk to me a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is an incredible open community. So the GSB is very special by people are encouraged to share, be vulnerable, and support each other. So that's wonderful. We have once a week, we have two classmates doing a talk, 30 minutes dedicated all to them sharing their life story. And you see these people in class and they are super smart. And then you go to talk and you hear incredible stories of growth, facing adversity, and people are incredible. Second thing about this university that it's really not competitive, which is good. So we have a great non-disclosure. You don't feel any competition. People are just helping each other.
Which
And
I think is interesting because it's extremely competitive to get into. The acceptance rate is one of the lowest in the world. Yet the second you're in, you're a part of this community that you're saying it's not competitive, right?
it's true. And, it's the highest percentage, the highest, uh, it's the low,
Percentile?
it's the lowest percentile of getting in
Right,
amongst
right.
MBA programs. And this great non-disclosure allows people to just like not think about race, just study, be focused on their friends, and
Right.
work together, collaborate, take risks. It's encourage you to do mistakes because eventually you will graduate. Uh,
Right. So you mentioned a few times also to me outside of this is that part of the magic of the GSB is that you have all these people who are coming from extremely different backgrounds. You're coming in as an officer from the IDF. You have people coming in after they've ran businesses around the world or have had different adversities that they've overcome. And when you come into an institution that there no grades are involved, you each have your own personal grade, but the goal at the end is to graduate together as a community and to build relationships that will span way beyond the campus, but in the real world and in the business world, right?
exactly. Uh, I will move to the bad. The bad thing is that it's only 2 years.
It's only 2 years. I love that.
It's only 2 years, so it's a paradise for education. You're getting inspired every day. It's a tremendous growth. Like I was basically half vacationing, traveling with friends, and still I feel like I boosted my career and grew as an entrepreneur. And only 2 years. I wish it was cheaper and and longer. I guess the
Was it worth working for 6 years to get in for this 2 year experience?
I believe so. I'm pretty like biased, as you know. I put a lot of money in this program too. Um, so you have to believe that it gives you something. But looking backwards, 2 years ago, coming from Israel, even with my fluent English, I didn't know how it will grow me to be where I am today. I feel comfortable fundraising now with top VCs, collaborating and selling my products to clients right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
And that boosted my confidence greatly. And so I'm grateful for that. Also, this community is incredible.
Yep.
So much knowledge, so much grace. People are like helping all the time, um, which I think it's really, really. I wish my alma mater, Technion, would be more like this, that people would collaborate more. The alumni network. It's like we have so much talent in Technion, and they still haven't picked up about building a community that helps their members. So I'm
Well, I
really
think that the interesting thing is that in Israel, the equivalent of the experience, the community experience of a university is your army unit. Because when we go to the average bar in Tel Aviv, you don't really ask, "Hey, where did you go to school?" You ask, "Hey, which unit did you serve in?" In the U.S., obviously, it's the first question. And so I think that it's so interesting to see two different, communities, two different countries, two different incredible countries with people growing up in different ways. But at the end, it's all about the community and it's all about the people. Roy. One thing you mentioned to me, which I'd love to bring up, you told me that every really amazing CEO has their shtick. They have their thing, and you asked me, Michael, what is going to be your thing? Well, Roy, I'm going to turn the question to you because this is about you. What is your thing as the CEO?
cool. So I'll go wild and I say that I'm going to be the jungle CEO. So every CEO is crazy. My offices is going to be all about nature. I'm going to have trees. I'm going to have animals jumping around, monkeys, tigers,
Of
running.
course, of course.
And I'll be, Elon Musk is the space guy. I'm going to be nature guy. What are you going to be?
I have no idea yet. I'm gonna see how yours plays out, and then I'll make my decision. And no, but you have. I mean, you've also really inspired me to be more conscious about my eating habits and meditation. And it's not just about nature. You're really you. I think one thing that I've gotten to know about you over this past year is this idea of like being of inner collectedness and inner calmness and really being in touch with who you are. So I want to thank you for bringing that to my attention because both of us reflect often on how driven we are and how much time we spend on racing to something. Yet at the same time, you're very conscious on also introspection and taking the time to really reflect. And I really appreciate that you brought that reflection into my life because these are not mutually exclusive, racing to something and being happy internally and being satisfied. Roy, I want to thank you for being so generous with your time. Before we leave, I need 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Okay, choose entrepreneurial, Israeli, and loving because I have a lot of love in me.
100%. I can testify from the past year, watching you both in the classroom and also outside in the social scene. It resonates. I can't wait to see the incredible things that you do and be part of each other's journeys. So thank you very, very much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you, Mike.